Hello and welcome to a new episode of 3D Garage, and in this one I'm going to be showing you how to convert your Mk3 Golf shift tower to a newer Mk4 Golf version. This is actually quite a simple conversion. You just have to change your shift tower on your gearbox and the actual shifter mechanism inside the car, and it will give you the better O2J style shift as opposed to the O2A which is in the Mk3 Golf. So these are the parts that you're going to need to do the conversion. This is the O2J shifter and cables out of a Mk4 Golf. You can get them in the Audi A3 as well, so long as they're after the year 2000. They'll be absolutely fine. I've got some little spacers as well to go on because the Mk3 bolts down in 4 places like there, whereas opposed to the Mk4 bolts up through the shift tunnel. So you're going to need that piece, some little spacers. Those are M8. I don't think they'd be quite long enough, but I can just put a bolt there to space them up a bit more. You're also going to need the shift tower mechanism that goes in the top of the gearbox, like such. And it's also worth grabbing the little cup that sits at the bottom of the gearbox that portion drops into, because they are different sizes depending on which model of Mk3 Golf you have. If you have a different size shaft, you'll have to get some gearbox oil because you'll have to drain the oil to replace that. So you might need some 75/90 gearbox oil, 2 litres of it. I think it's 1.79 to be exact, but 2 litres should do you. I'm going to change the oil in mine anyway because it's on 150,000 miles, so it'll be worth doing. You also need the connector from the Mk4 Golf loom that plugs in for your reverse light on there, because the Mk3 one is slightly different. It's just 2 wires, so it should be easy enough to swap over. And whilst I'm there, I've got a new shift boot and kind of an anniversary style gear knob to go on. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the 3 bolts holding on the, there's a bracket that kind of aligns the cables. You can just see them there. I've given them a pre-soaking with some penetrating fluid. I'm going to take those off, and I'm also going to take the shift tower out, which is a couple of bolts. There's one you can just see down the bottom there, and it's quite hard to see. You can just see it right down the bottom there. I'll show you as I take it out anyway. So 1 bolt there, 1 bolt there, and 1 bolt just there. 13mm, just an extension on a ratchet, gets done quite easily. So I've got the new shifter bolted in place. I didn't have to take the cup out of the bottom because both shafts were the same size, so I'm lucky there. I'll still pop the drain plug out of the gearbox and do that because I got the oil, but I was quite lucky with that one. It seated all right. It was quite difficult because there's a little cup that sits at the bottom of the shifter, which there's a little slot in it that has to be located in the gearbox. I'll show you that now. So that cup there kind of moves up and down the shaft. That slot has to go in a specific place on the gearbox. I was having trouble getting it seated all the way down, and that wasn't sitting right, but as soon as I've worked that out, it went in lovely. Just look at gross that one is. Gross. So I'm just under the car looking up at the gearbox. Now just up there, that's where the shifter tower is. So once you've removed those 2 10mm bolts, there's that little lip there just on the right. If you give that a tap, it'll break the seal around the shifter tower, making it a lot easier to get out. Staying underneath the car, I'm gonna have to remove the cat, so I can remove the heat shield so I can get to the box underneath. It's a lot easier for me because I've got access to a 4-post ramp, but there's no reason why you can't do this on axle stands if you can get the space underneath. So with the exhaust and heat shields removed, you can see the bottom of the shifter box there. Just got to undo those two 13 mils, and then we'll go into the car and take the cover off where the gear stick is to get it out. Inside the car, the gear knob just unscrews from the top, and then this little piece just pries off. Now there's two little 10mm nuts there and some Torx at the front of the console either side that you just got to undo to take this section out. So if you can just see down there, there's a small 10mm, the same as the ones that, there it is, we're on by the gear stick. So to get to that one, I'm going to take the handbrake centre out, which is just a posi there. So let's take all this out. Okay, with that all removed, we can now get to the 13mm bolt there. The old shifter box is now out. I'm just offering the new one up through because it goes in, but you'll see at the back here, those are the existing holes where the old one bolted to. So I'm just going to have to elongate those mounting points on the new box just to make sure I can use those existing mounting points in the tunnel. Right, the new shifter is in. It looks to be in a decent position. The only thing is it's just touching when you put it into reverse on those sides. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to square off that edge with a Dremel or a grinder. Okay, so before I bolt this in, I just wanted to show you how those spacers work. So if you see up there, there's the two holes I drilled. The centre one is the existing hole where the old box bolts to. But those should line up through the top, and then I'll bolt them through. And I basically had to wind the nut all the way down to the bottom. That gave me enough space, so those were pretty much perfect for what I needed. That's all bolted in. Just give it a quick go. Much better. Nice positive click. And reverse works as well. Brilliant. So something I've noticed when I've put the centre console back in is that there's no bolts for those little nuts, plastic nuts to go on that hold the centre console in. The rear one still fits and it seems to hold, but it's just worth bearing that in mind. There we go, new shifter is in with the new gear stick. The eBay Gator wasn't that great. The elastic around the bottom didn't hold, so I had to cut the rubber out of the old Mark III style. So I'll be getting a new one of those classic eBay strikes again. So there we go, all done. A really simple, effective mod to the Mark III, or a must if you're doing a conversion in an older VW, maybe a 1.18, a Mark II or Mark I Golf. Definitely recommend this shifter upgrade. It's loads better. There's many more options for like quick shifts and short shifters as well. It cost me probably about 20 or 30 pounds to do the whole conversion. The oil you may not need, but it's probably worth getting just in case you have to change that bottom cup. Don't pay eBay prices for conversion kits. A lot of this stuff you can get out of Mark IV Golfs, A3s. They're either in scrapyard or breaker's yard. Mine I got from a car I was breaking, so it owes me nothing. The Gator and the shift knob was about £10 I think together. So a really, really simple, effective mod that I'd 100% recommend for anyone to do to their Mark III. I'll put a link in the description as well to the forum where I followed most of this guide from, really good one. And also put a list of all the parts that you need in the description as well, so have a look there. And remember, keep an eye out for more of these helpful DIY videos.